Okay, we are live. So first, I want to say thanks, boys and girls. This is the inaugural podcast for Productive Agent, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And we have a very, very special guest today, Ali Garbero. I met Ali. We met online. It was through a Facebook chat talking about branding and marketing. She asked a really cool question. I answered it, via chat, but that led to a conversation that led to this. So here we are. And so Allie is involved in, marketing and branding, help agents with their personal brand. And so, but I'll let her tell who she is and what she does. So take it away, Allie.
Awesome. Well, Rob, what an honor. What a privilege to be on your old podcast. I'm Ali Garbero. Thanks for the introduction. I am a certified story brand marketing guide. I'm also a copywriter and messaging strategist. And so what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
Lots of words right there. But ultimately, there's this problem that we have in real estate and really just in small business marketing. And it's the fact that we're wasting a lot of money on marketing that just isn't capturing the attention of our ideal client. We're a little bit confused about how to build a brand. Most often, what I see when it comes to real estate, we think that a brand is a logo, that it's beautiful design, that it's a color palette of fonts. And although that adds to the design and the visual perspective of how a brand shows up online, there's this key thing that has to happen with your messaging, with your brand purpose, and that's that you have to communicate it. And communicating also involves a lot of words. So what happens is that people will buy products after they read the words that they make them want to buy those products. But what will happen is so often you'll head over to websites, or you'll read social media content or buyer's packets or even listing descriptions. And there's a lot of words on there, but nobody is saying anything. And the reason that happens is, look, we've got to capture our people's attention. And here's why. Our brain is programmed to do two things every day. It's daydreaming. I think about 70% of our time we are just daydreaming. And so the time that we are actually conscious, our brain is trying to do two things. And first, it is looking to survive and thrive in my environment. Okay, so I'm looking for things that are going to keep me alive, and then I'm looking for things that are going to take me up and really help me elevate my lifestyle. And the second thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to conserve calories while doing it. And how that all comes back into play with our marketing messages. If I get to your website, if I get to your social profiles, and you're talking about, 20 years ago, you got into real estate because your dad told you that this was a great idea. Well, what's my mind doing? I'm starting to daydream, right? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get you the information that you need quickly and to the point. I want to know, how do you solve the problems that I have as a home buyer or seller? And I want to know how to do that. I want that answer quickly, because the human mind says, okay, look, I've got food, right? You're comfortable right now, Rob. You're in a warm room, you've got food, you've got shelter. The next thing you want to do is you want to actually level up and thrive. And I always tease, Tony Horton years ago had a brand, and that was a P90X. He wasn't selling me DVDs. He was telling me, man, if you work out and use my program, you're going to get some really great abs. Okay, now he's talking to me about how I can thrive. And he told it
Right.
to me pretty quickly,
And it's
right?
about you versus, one of the things I said to agents all the time, I said, have you ever gone shopping on a website? I said, and they go, yeah. And I go, how much time do you spend navigating the website looking for biographical information about the agent? Or, I mean, the people that work at this retailer. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, exactly.
Well, and people aren't Googling Rob Aubrey. They're usually Googling, how do I finance the purchase of my home?
Right.
And which eventually, because again, like you said, they're coming because they've got a problem, they need a solution. And so coming back to why I use story and how this, using story really connects with people is because story is this really sense making device where it allows us, it's why you can go. So you tell me, Rob, what's the last movie you saw that you enjoyed on at the movies or at home? What was a movie you recently watched?
I mean, I'm right now I'm watching the series Treadstone. So I watch an episode. Treadstone was the one of the organizations inside the Bourne series. So I mean, I'm watching that. It's a docudrama, or not a docu, but it's a drama, and it's spies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm watching that.
Yes. Okay. So the reason that a story like that can capture your attention for several hours on end is because it follows a very unique framework. And
Right.
that framework always starts with a character. So you
Right.
know who that character in the story is. And I always tease, I come back to Mr. Miyagi, right? Because the Karate Kid is a story we all know for the most part,
Right.
in the 80s. So we come back to Mr. Miyagi, we come back to Daniel. So Daniel was an individual who had a problem. He was getting beat up. He wasn't feeling great about himself. And along came this individual, Mr. Miyagi, who served as a guide and said, Daniel, I can help you out. I understand what you're going through. I've got a solution to your problem, and I've got a plan to help you solve it. And then automatically what will happen in the story is that this character will be called to action by some compelling event. And so if we bring that back to business marketing and real estate marketing, the character of the story of our business is our home buyers and home sellers.
Right.
These are the individuals who want to be the hero of their story. They're living their own story. And so if we show up and we say, let's say that you're a home seller of mine, Rob, and I'm like, hey, Rob, so great to see you. Did you know I just sold 100 homes? I just, won top 250 real estate agent award. Like, I'm just awesome. Well, you're thinking, well, great, Allie, that's great for you. I'm glad you're the hero of the story. I'm going to go over here and talk to somebody else
Right.
because I've got real problems and I want to be the hero of my story.
Right.
So
That,
what we
I mean,
oh,
that makes total sense. I mean, because it's like, what's that old saying? People don't, they want to know you care before they care what you know.
yes, exactly. And so what we'll do is, we'll position ourselves as the hero. And so what I want to invite those listening today is to just kind of do a quick little mindset shift is kind of look at the social media content that you're creating.
Right.
Look at your website, look at any of your marketing collateral and ask yourself, does this message that I'm communicating to the world solve a problem for my clients? Does
Right.
it help them understand what working with me looks like and feels like? Or am I confusing them by giving them all this data about how long I've been in business and what a great agent I am? Because again, we're trying to survive and thrive. And so, if it's okay with you, I just want to quickly take you through those 7 principles of story, this
Okay.
framework
Yeah.
that can help people really show up in a way that will build their personal brand. Because again, building a personal brand is about communicating a message, and how you communicate that message. If you follow this framework, you're going to show up clear, you're going to show up as the problem solver, and people are going to pay attention. So really the first principle is really this, and that's that we've got to start when you agitate a client's desire for what they want, they enter into the story that you are telling. So when you're creating content out there in the world, ask yourself, what is it? And so I'll ask you, Rob, okay, you help, real estate agents with, servicing the loans of clients and trying to find great financing. From your perspective, what is it that the real estate agent really wants from your loan services?
Well, research we've done is is they want they want to close on time,
Mhm.
they want effective communication, and they want you to follow up on their leads.
Love it. And you know what I didn't hear is I didn't hear that what they want is to hear how many other loans you've ever processed,
Right.
right?
Right.
They just want to know, look, I want to show up like the hero to my clients.
Right.
And so how can you, Rob, and you and your, lending services help me do that, right? So when you agitate my desire, what I want most, now I'm going to start paying attention. So an example would be, hey, Allie, are you tired of, having to get extensions? Are you tired of, would you love to be able to close a loan in 2 weeks or less? Yeah. Now I'm paying attention because now you're giving me the ability to get to the closing table faster.
Right.
Right? You're starting to agitate what I really
Would,
want.
would you
And
like to know what's going on during?
yes,
Yeah, that's huge.
I I'm so glad you said that, because how many times are real estate agents left in the dark about, okay, they send you a lead and then what happens?
Right. They call you two
Nobody
weeks later and go, what happened?
nobody knows, right?
Right.
If you keep me informed, again, that's a talking point. Allie, would you love to work with a loan officer who keeps you up to date with the process every step of the way?
Yep.
Yeah. Who's calling your leads, updating you about your leads? Heck yeah, instead of the other way around. So now, again, you're agitating my desire of
Right.
what I want most. And so really the second principle is this is, and you mentioned it before we got on the call, is I'll ask you, what is it we're looking for when you go out shopping for a service or a product? What are we trying to do? Is it that I just want more products because I need to fill up my house with junk? What am I
Right.
really looking for when I'm looking for a product or service?
Yeah, you're trying to solve a problem. I
Mhm.
have a problem. Like a home buyer, if they need a loan, they're like, I want that home, but how do I get it? So I solve their problem. And then the agent, the agent has a buyer that wants that home, and comes me.
Perfect. And so people think, look, we have to start with the problem, because if you stop talking about your clients' problems, they stop paying attention.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. I always tease Tony Horton, again, coming back to him in P90X. He knew my problem was, hey, Allie, your pants aren't fitting well. You're not liking what you're seeing on the scale. Maybe you're not feeling confident. Well, look, I've got this little solution over here for you. So when you think about the problems that you help solve for real estate agents as a loan officer, what are some of the common problems or frustrations that you hear from the real estate agents that you help?
Well, the three that I laid out, that my focus is that to close on time, effective communication. Communication is probably the biggest one. Well, and closing on time. I mean, and then the third one is follow up on the leads, and those that and we've identified that as their biggest issues. And
Ah,
so, so the way I'm trained is that is our focus. So we focus on solving that problem for agents because my competition doesn't.
perfect. So when agents know, holy cow, you know what, man, this lender never calls me back. This lender never follows up. This lender is asking me for an extension. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That is a pain point, right? So we have now, when you talk about those problems and you say, hey guys, are you sick and tired of this happening in,
Right.
contract to close process? Agents are starting to pay attention. Similarly, as real estate agents, you need to be talking about what are the problems. And I would ask you, what are the problems that home buyers and sellers are facing right now? If the desire of the home buyer and seller in Utah is to either upgrade or to downsize or to stop renting, if that's what they want, because they dream of owning a piece of the American dream, right?
Right.
That's what they want. What is the problem from your perspective that you're seeing as happen in the real estate market that's preventing Utahns from the ability to either buy a home or, make a move?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, that's a kind of a multifaceted question. I mean, right now we have prices and rates, so
Mhm.
that's a condition. So, in sales, you have what they call an objection and a condition. Objection is I don't like the carpet. The condition is I don't make enough money. That, it simply can't happen. Carpet we can fix, but we can't overcome the so we have conditions right now that are challenging people. But I think the real thing is believe it or not, too much information. People just have so much information that they come to you with pieces here, here, and here, and they're coming in and saying, "What about this? What about that?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, that makes sense, but that's only a part. It's not a part of the big. It's a small part of a big picture."
Yeah.
And
And
so, living in the information age, some of them, they come with confused information.
I I love that you said that, because that's exactly, information overload is a real problem. And so
Hmm.
here's what I see. If the residents of Utah believe that they can just Google answers to their problems, that the media is giving them accurate information
Yeah,
around what's really happening in the real estate market here, then they're confused. They don't really have accurate information. So if you as a real estate agent show up in a way where you address what are real problems going on. Well, a real problem that's happening in the market right now is, you've got too much information, so you think okay,
right,
but here's some information you might not have. B, let's talk about something very tangible, and this is just a simple one, just for time's sake. Something very tangible right now is interest rates, right? They're
right,
high. This is a tangible problem. Well, look, Rob, I want to refinance my home, or I want to upgrade my home, but I'm sitting on an interest rate of 2.75.
right.
How, why would I ever go upgrade into this market of 7%?
Well, and now they have to upgrade their price and their rate, so it's like a double whammy.
So I would invite you, the real estate agent listening, to address that problem. Are you
Right.
feeling stuck? Do you want to upgrade, but you don't know how to do it, and you don't want to go into a 7% market? Well, guess what? Here's how I can help you solve that. Because the media isn't going to sell solutions. The
Nope.
media is going to sell, because again, they're talking about the problem.
Well,
Because
there's no
that's what.
money. There's no money in solutions for them. They're just trying to sell clicks. I heard Denzel Washington say it. He says they're not even interested in truth. Their only objective is to be first.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, we get information so fast delivered to us. The Fed farts and I got it. And I got an update. You know, and so
Exactly.
again, so the media, I mean, you need a good professional. I mean, stop, the media. I mean, don't, yeah, we won't go down that road.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really just you have to really show up as that individual
Right.
who offers the real information and who
Yep.
is able to solve those problems. And so a couple of other things that I would add is, we've talked about, and this is probably the key, we're talking about the problem, great. You've got the solution, great. But the challenge becomes is that too often as a real estate agent, you want to show up as the hero of the story to solve problems. And so I'm going to have you sort of just shift your mindset a little bit and ask yourself, Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, was he the hero of the story? Did he go beat up the bad guys?
No, no, it was the Karate Kid. He was the hero,
Right. It was Daniel. So what he did, so the role that Mr. Miyagi played was that of the guide.
the
And the
guide.
and the guide is the character of the story that is usually less fearful, less worried, because they've seen the problem before. They've
Right.
been there. He's like, Daniel, you got this. I got a plan for you. You're going to wax on, you're going to wax off. And my plan is going to help you solve this problem. So I would invite you, as those individuals listening in the real estate market, to position themselves as the guide of the story instead of the hero. And so what are some ways, if your audience is listening going, well, great, how do I do that? Because again, the tendency in real estate is to say, well, I want to show that I've just won all these awards because now people are going to want to work with me. When really Mr. Miyagi never had to show
Right.
Daniel all of his awards, right? And so I'd love to throw this question to you. As you deal with real estate agents every single day throughout the lending process, and you understand what some of those common problems we're facing, what are some things that you do to help guide, us as, let's say you've got that real estate agent listening and they're like, all right, Rep, you're a great loan officer. I know 50 of them. All right, how can you guide me? What plan can you give me, or what can you do to help me go from late closings, high interest rates, whatever those problems I'm facing? What can you do for me?
Yeah, the key is, I think it's always the key is asking the right questions, figuring out, because again, I'm a guide, I'm a problem solver. So I'm going to guide, whomever to the solution. And so, but the first key is you have to ask the right questions
Mhm.
to identify the real problem. Because
Yes.
sometimes, and consumers will kind of give you, what I call periphery information. You know what I mean? They're not ready to divulge their problems. Sometimes real estate agents aren't ready to divulge the real problems yet. So you have to drill down, and you have to earn their trust and confidence
Mhm.
that you are the right guide, as you put it. I love that fact that we are a guide, and that's the approach I take. I have a teacher's heart. I mean, I've been in the industry for so many years, and I made a living at helping agents, and and that's what I do is I help agents. I don't, I don't need the glory. I just,
Mhm.
my job is to make the agent look good.
Yes.
I
And
mean, they have a problem. They got a buyer that doesn't have money, or has doesn't have 100% money, right? And so, how do we get the money to them? Well, they just, let me ask questions, and then I will present you with a plan. I mean,
perfect.
that's my plan: is ask questions, then I'll develop a plan.
Well, and one thing that you do really well, and I know that because it's why we're having a conversation, and it's you deliver a lot of high value content, you deliver a lot of helpful information, you facilitate conversations as well because you are the administrator of this very large Facebook group of
Right,
Utah agents, right? You are facilitating that as a place for real estate agents to be able to talk amongst themselves when they have a problem. So you've really positioned yourself as that guide for them already. When I've got a
right.
question, I've got a problem, I can go to Rob, and at no point were you saying, "Oh, and hey, do you want to, do you want me to be your preferred lender?" You
Yeah.
know, you
Look how
began.
long I've been in business.
Yes, exactly. Because, like you said earlier, doesn't matter how long you've been in business. What matters is that you understood my problem, that
Right,
you are positioning yourself to give me solutions. And
right,
so let's just, just for fun, this is a question I like to ask a lot of loan officers right now. If the struggle for me as a real estate agent is that, man, my clients just aren't moving because interest rates are high, what's one potential solution you might communicate with me that I could then share with them? What are some ways to get around this hurdle of high interest rates?
right. Well, right now is, and there's so much evidence, and well, it's hard to say evidence, but the data indicates that rates are going to come down. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's just what, and it's barring no black swans, right? Black swans are, World War III starts, the government does something stupid, which that's,
Right.
that's a whole nother podcast. And so, rates will eventually come down. So, but let's look at what's going to happen when rates come down. If
Mhm.
rates come down right now, what would happen? You'd have a surge of buyers enter the market, and we still have a shortage of inventory. So if a
Mhm.
surge of buyers enter the market, so some of these buyers that are sitting and waiting, that kind of got priced out last year,
Mhm.
because they couldn't compete. Because
Yeah.
to compete last year, you had to, go up in price, you had to pay your own closing costs, and waive and all kinds of due diligence. But right now, buyers can get concession. Yeah, the rates are higher, but rates will come down. The rate is not permanent, but the
Mhm.
price is. So as rates come down, the first thing that'll go away is concessions.
Mhm.
So then now the buyer has to come up with closing costs on their own, or add it to the price, which could put them in an appraisal problem. So then that's the first thing to go away. The second thing that'll happen is prices will actually start to go up. So right now is the chance to get the price it's not, they're not going to go down. Prices are not going to go down. I could show charts on where we are in inventory. We still have a shortage of inventory. Now, even though in our Utah market, inventory is considerably higher than it was this time last year. However, it is historically very, very low.
Oh
We
yeah.
could double our inventory, maybe not double, but we can at least 50% more, and we wouldn't have a problem. We would have, it would get absorbed.
Yes.
So,
And
so my solution is, or my answer is around the rate problem is get in now while the prices are here, because you can get the rate late, you can get the lower rate later, but you're not going to get a lower price later.
oh, I love that. And you know what you're doing? This is a story principle as well. What you're doing here is you're helping cast a vision of what life will look like for those who enter the market right now, who are fearful. I don't know. What you're helping cast a vision of success for me, of what my life will look like. You don't have to be afraid, Allie. You can go buy that dream home because those rates are going to drop. They're only temporary. And ultimately, you know what you're going to have 5 years from now? You're going to have a home that's got equity in it, and you're going to have a home that you love. So that's another story principle within the story brand framework, is that your clients, so this to the real estate agents listening, is it's very important that you cast a vision for your home buyers and sellers of what life will look like. And everybody's, if you're a real estate agent, you have been through this. You fully understand that selling a home is nerve-wracking. It is stressful.
Well, brutal.
Nobody wants to pack up, right?
No,
Pack up, move their stuff, have strangers walk through their house. That is a pain in the butt. What on earth is going to get me to do that? Well,
right,
if you, as my real estate agent, have positioned your personal brand to be a solution to my problem, and in addition, you're casting a vision of success saying, hey, Allie, I know that's a pain point. Guess what? I've got all these people in my back pocket to help solve that problem for you. And in
right,
addition, here's what life's going to look like. Just imagine 2 months from now, you're sitting poolside by that dream home. You're no longer having to walk the stairs that are bothering you. Your kids aren't on top of you everywhere, right? Whatever that is, whatever that
right,
unique problem is. Now you're casting that vision of success, and people are going, you're right. I'm not as afraid to make that decision. So that's another story principle that you were sharing there. And one other thing that I think we don't talk about, and yes, it's important. Let's talk about the success. Let's talk about the dream. But another element of story that you want to implement into your personal brand is really, and I would add that this is a little bit of your value differentiator where this plays out. I guess let me ask you a question. And this is talking about what's at stake. Okay. What might happen? What are those consequences for me as if I'm a real estate agent listening to this podcast and I keep using that loan officer that arrives late, that always asks for extensions, that never sends me any referrals? Okay. Then what are the consequences of not working with you and sticking with this other bad LO that I'm completely miserable with?
well, one, well, it's costing money. So we have an acronym COI, which most people think of COI as, it has to do it as center of influence. So the COI is cost of inactivity. Now using it, so that having the wrong loan officer, right, that's not doing things for you, is you're spending too much time doing things you shouldn't be doing. In
Mm.
other words, it should just be handled. A real estate agent really only wants two phone calls, right? Here's the call, here's a buyer, and then they call you with a buyer. The second phone call is they receive the second phone call that says closings tomorrow. I mean, that's it. That's all they really, if you want to put it in a nutshell, that's it.
Exactly.
You know,
So what you have to communicate as a personal brand to me is what's at stake. And what's at stake if I continue to do this with this other LO, I'm never going to get referrals. I'm
right?
never
It's
going
a
to
bad experience.
oh,
I mean, it's already a brutal experience. Let's not dog pile on a rabbit and make it a worse experience than it already needs to be. I mean, moving under the best circumstances is brutal,
Mhm.
and so let's not compound the problems.
And so what will happen is real estate agents aren't talking about the stakes. They're not talking about the consequences. And as a personal brand, you have to communicate to your clients of home buyers and sellers. look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're right. You could continue to sit on that 3% interest rate. You know what'll happen? 5 years from now, that home you really love that has all that space you want, it'll still be there. It'll cost more. Okay.
Right.
And you'll just for the next 5 years continue not like living where you live. And I
Right.
remember I went through this. I was buying a home a couple of years ago, and I was looking in two different places. I was looking, two different cities ultimately. And I kept asking real estate agents, what do you think? Should I buy this house or this house? Right. And they kept coming back and asking me, well, what's your long-term plan? What's your 5 years? Is this a
Right.
forever home? Or
They're
is
the
this
right questions.
they were asking the right questions. And ultimately, what my friends helped me see was, the consequences of not making the move right now is that, or choosing, because I was choosing between this forever home and this sort of temporary fixed home because it was like so pretty and so nice. And it wasn't what I ultimately wanted long term, but I was like, well, it'll work for a little bit. And they helped me see the consequences of you choosing the short term fix is that you're going to have to fix it again in 5 years.
Right.
Okay. Fix it now, and long term, you're in your forever home.
Right.
So those are the conversations that a personal brand, that's the content that a personal brand should be creating to help home buyers and sellers be able to get off that ledge and go, yeah, I can deal with it now, or I can deal with it in 5 years.
Right.
Nothing will be easier about this move in 5 years.
Nope. Well, it's going to be more expensive. And whatever the rate is at that time, that's the rate at that time. So, but if you bought now, you'd get it at today's price and, the best rate between now and then.
Exactly.
The other
And
thing, oh, go ahead.
oh
No,
no, I was just gonna say, just real estate agents. I was gonna ask you, you connect with many real estate agents. Are they communicating the consequences of not working with them enough?
probably, probably not. No, agents are trained too much. Their branding and marketing training is always, look at me, look at me, look at me, rather than being the guide,
Hmm.
as you call it. I mean, I love that, what you just taught me. I'm the guide.
Hmm.
Something what I was going to say was, there's another alternative rather than sell and lose that, 3% interest rate. Why not sell seller financing and make the yield spread? So what if you sold the house at 6.5% interest? So you're making 3.5%. Hold on, I got to sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Oh boy, that's embarrassing. So so you have a 3% interest rate. Let's say you sell the house at 6% interest rate. So you're making 6% on your equity, but you're making 3% on the bank's money. So you can receive a down payment to take, a down payment from the buyer for the next purchase. But let's say you're making $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month over because your payment is so low. Well, now when you go into that new house, you have an additional $1,200 a month to make that the impact, of the new payment, it's kind of slow, minimizes the impact.
Absolutely. See, and
So,
you just shared something. You just shared talking point number one that is a solution.
right.
It's a solution that the media is not going to tell me about or what it is.
No,
And
they don't
so
even know what it is.
this is this is the content that real estate agents should be creating, should be talking about, to
Right.
position themselves as a trustworthy guide, because the guide has to have two elements to them. Okay, a guide has to have empathy and authority. And Mr. Miyagi had empathy in that, okay, I understand, because he had been through his own experiences in getting beat up and humiliated. But that's not enough. I can't just say, you're right, Mr. Home Seller. Oh, I totally understand. Moving is a pain. Okay, yes, that's empathy. But now the guide also has to have authority. Mr.
Right.
Miyagi had to be able to tell Daniel, look, this is how you're going to fight back. So as a loan officer to your real estate agents, or as real estate agents to their clients, you've got to have empathy in that I understand this is a tough time, but look, I've got the authority to teach you how to get over that hurdle to the other side of getting what you ultimately want.
Right. To solve your problem. I mean, it's that simple.
Exactly. And we're not using any of that. And like you said, it pains me because I don't blame real estate agents. Nobody teaches,
Right.
running a real estate business, we were talking, is running a business. Most people get into real estate because they like homes or they like people, and all of
Hmm.
a sudden find
But I
themselves with
got
the
laid off, you know?
exactly. I got laid off and hey, this real estate thing looks good. And then you get into it, right? And you start going, oh man, this is a business. And
Right.
business requires marketing. And why so many, coming back to where I started, is why agents are wasting so much money on marketing is because it's too centric. The message is confusing. You're not showing up as the guide. And I would add one last element, and that's that we're not calling people to action.
Right.
And we've got to say, okay, I've given you the information. That's awesome, but now you have got to make the move.
Right.
Here's our websites. Good grief, I can't tell you how many websites I go to where the call to action is search for homes.
Right.
If your clients went on your website and took only one action, Rob. So if let's say I'm a real estate agent and I come onto your, LO site and I'm like, oh, Rob looks like a nice guy. What's the most important action you want me to take on your site? What would that be?
Well, contact me. I mean, hello.
Contact me, right? But why? So then why on earth are our real estate sites, okay, saying, hey, search for homes? Why is that the call to action? Right? The call to action
Yeah,
should be contact
it's
me.
it worked when the agent facing search sites first came out, they were a great novelty and not everybody had them. And they actually worked. But now now you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a real estate search site, right? I mean, it's not a big deal anymore. Well, of course you have a search site, I
Yes.
mean,
I,
so, but so like I'll give you a good example. So of a marketing that an agent could do, you can, with the right tools and stuff, you could identify, say, two-story homeowners that have owned a home for at least 20 years, right? So they own a two-story house, they've lived there 20 years, and if you go in the step-up price range, not the starter price range two-story. So if they're in a step-up, so that means when they bought that step-up house, their kids were probably 7, 8, 9 years old, in that range, and they lived there 20 years. So that means the kids are probably gone. And so, what would, so you could compile that list, right? And just send them a mailer that says, tired of stairs? Call me, right?
exactly.
I mean, you're solving their problem, and you're called out. I mean, it is that simple.
Exactly. You're calling them to action. I love that you said tired of stairs, call me. That's exactly what we want to do. We want
Right,
to have a direct call to action because that's when we invite people to really take that next step. And so as you're looking at building a personal brand using the story brand framework, I would say these are the key questions you want to write down, if you're in a place where you can write down or come back and listen to this later and write these key questions down. It's really just every time you create any kind of content, asking yourself, what do my home buyers and sellers want, right?
right,
And my investors, what do they want, right? And then it's got to be aspirational. Daniel did not want to wax on and wax off. Daniel wanted to be the man. He wanted to win the girl. He wanted to be a karate kid. What do our home buyers and sellers want in this market? They want a piece of the American dream. They want to
right,
live like the Joneses. That's what I mean when I talk about aspirational identity. It's who am I before? Who do I
right,
become? So,
right,
the next is how is it? What problems am I dealing with, right? And how's that problem making me feel? And then are you positioning your personal brand as the hero or the guide? Have
right,
you created a clear plan for me to win the day? Do I know exactly one or two, three steps that I have to take? So obviously the direct call to action is call you. But before I call you, is it clear on your site what working with you looks like in maybe two or three steps? is that call to action clear? Contact me, Allie, and then have you helped your clients visualize, paint that picture of success of what their life will look like because they worked with you, as well as brought to their attention what's at stake if they don't.
Right.
Because if you don't use me, Mr. Seller, as your top home selling agent, well, what are some of the things that are at stake? You're going to lose money. You're going to have a
Right.
frustrating experience. You'll sit on the market wondering why you never sold.
Right.
Those questions kind of coming together, look at your personal brand, look at the content that you're creating, and using these elements of story, you will show up
Right.
you will show up online better than 98% of not just real estate agents, but businesses in general. Big businesses do the same thing.
Well,
So
and we know the questions. I mean, in the industry, what does a buyer ask? What are the buyer questions? How much earnest money do I need? What if I don't get the loan? What if I inspect and don't want it? I mean, these are all questions that are simple content to put on a website.
yeah, yeah. And it's just really just taking the time to pay attention to how well your brand answers these questions, how you've positioned your brand to solve problems. And I'll give you an example of how big brands do this. I share this on my show all the time, and it's Southwest Airlines. This is a value differentiator that's very simple, that they communicate in a real easy way. When you're booking a flight, Delta is going to charge you $30 for any extra bags. Well, what message has Southwest Airlines communicated to their clients is, look, bags fly free.
Right.
That is something that, you might think, oh, it's so simple. Doesn't everybody know that? Maybe they
Right.
do, maybe they don't, but they're the only brand communicating it. And another brand that I absolutely love and I talk about all the time that really uses the problem in a very good way is Allstate Insurance. They have villainized, the problem.
We've seen a thing or two. Right.
Mayhem is out there, and
Right.
if you get in a car insurance, and there's a local company, I won't mention their name, but here in Utah, that did a really great job of villainizing commission.
Right.
They used the framework of story, because in story there is a hero, right? And so if there's a hero, there is a villain, right? And so if you as a real estate agent are the guide to the hero of the story, which is your home buyer and home seller, well, this local company did a really great job by villainizing that, hey, commission, you shouldn't have to pay pricey commissions. You should ask your real estate agents for drops in prices, right? So they did a pretty good job of making people go, oh yeah, people started to feel that sense of commission is too high. And how good agents combated that was saying, really, is, like, yeah, you think this is the villain, but as a guide, they said, what's at stake if you sell with this company that charges less? What's really at stake? You're really willing to gamble the dice on your asset that's worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Call me and I'll give you the real information. So
Right.
that's just a way of, branding and why communicating your brand purpose. And let me be clear, if I wasn't before, when you communicate your brand purpose, it's not about why you are in business. Like, well, my mission is to change the world through, donating 10% of my real estate commissions. Your brand purpose is about communicating why you exist and how you add value to the marketplace.
Right. To
So,
their problem.
exactly.
Right.
So what value, and I'll put you on the spot here, Rob. If I was to say, well, Rob, what value do you add to the marketplace of real estate agents? I'm sure you'll have a really great list, and let's put you on the spot. What's one thing you do that really drives value to the marketplace for real estate agents?
Well, back to the list, the three anxieties of an agent is, close on time, communication. Communication is key. Every time I talk to a borrower, I call the agent and let them know what happened. Right. We call it touch the lead, touch the partner, touch the lead, touch the partner, meaning the real estate partner. And so, not to mention, I've been involved in this industry for a long time. I've been through the cycles. So it's like, as a guide, right? So, I know where we're at. I know where we're at in a cycle. I know where we were. I know where we're headed. And so
Nice.
I can guide, as you said. So I use the analogy of, I got this. I'm calm. So think about if you're on a plane. What if you hit a bunch of, and the plane starts bobbing up and down, and the pilot comes running down the aisle screaming. Well, how's that going to make you feel, right?
Hmm.
And then, or, what if the pilot just got on there and said, hey, look, we hit some air. I'm going to take it up and, everything will be good in a couple minutes. That, because problems happen. So
Hmm.
that's another big element. You need there's a couple things that, like, one is that's never taught in real estate and in mortgages: leading. You have to have some leadership skills, as you said. To be a guide, you need to be able to lead people through a process. And so if you don't have any kind of leadership skills, you're not going to be very good at leading. And so we have to lead people through the problem. The other one that I think I bring as a value proposition is I own problems. So, in other words, things happen, right? I don't judge people by if something happened. I judge how they handle it. So if something happened and I call you up and you got an excuse and blame everybody but you, wrong answer. If something happens in my organization, even if somebody down on my team, if they made a mistake, I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm on the phone with you, Allie. You're the agent. You're calling me up, or I'm calling you and saying I discovered a problem. It's like, Allie, we need to talk real quick. We have a situation. It happened. I'm 100% responsible, but here's what we're going to do to fix it. Do you have
Hmm.
any questions? And if the answer is no, then great. I have the full resources of my team are working on this to solve this problem. So I'm owning the problem. How many times have you call the escrow company and they're blaming, they got, everybody's circling their wagon around them. Meanwhile, the consumer's over there going, I don't give a crap what happened. What are we going to do?
Hmm.
That's the
Yep.
key. What are we going to do now? And, because things happen.
Well, and what I hear you say is, as far as a couple of things you pointed out, the value that you bring to the marketplace. You've been in the business a long time, and sometimes we can poke fun at that. Like, well,
Right.
you've been around this and this, but there's real value to working with someone who has, like, I did not own a home in 2008, so I didn't go through any
Right.
of the struggles that homeowners went through during that time. I don't understand. So when COVID came around, I had no idea what was going to happen with the housing market. And quite honestly, I was slightly panicked. Was business going to shift? What was going to happen?
Right.
Whereas you were able to confidently walk in and say, I got this. I've seen this. The value that I bring to the marketplace is knowledge, is because from we learn from all of the time that we've spent in the business. Every real estate transaction is completely different. Every single one teaches you something. And you've seen so many, not only yourself, not only through your agents and through the loan process. I mean, that's tremendous value. And so now your homework is, and I know you're already doing it, is communicating that value that your brand brings to the marketplace,
Right.
so that your real estate agent clients understand the difference between you and the next person.
Right.
So I would ultimately wrap up with my thoughts and the invitation to real estate agents, and that's that really we've got to take the hat off of being the hero, take off the real estate salesperson hat, and it's to be the guide. And I hope that
Right.
that's the message people will walk away with. And as you build that, as you build your personal brand with story, position yourself as a problem solver, position your real estate services as a solution to the problems of your clients.
Right. Yeah. And I agree 1,000% with that. And I'm so glad. I mean, I was taking notes, as you were talking. And so, but one of the things I was going to say was, that squirrel is, yeah, being the guide, God, it'll come back to me anyway.
No worries.
So, that's the other side of being old. you know, what's that old joke? When you get Alzheimer's, you make new friends every day, right? So, It may be the same people, but they're new friends. But so anyway, if it comes back to me, I'll blurt it out. So
No.
it had to do, oh, I know what it was. We were talking about sales. Don't take off the sales hat. And I agree with that statement to the degree that take off the sales hat that people don't want. They don't want to be that kind of sales, because sales has a bad reputation. But here's my definition of sales. Okay. Sales is a series of questions that leads to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, I'm not pushy. In other words, if you're not moving, well, great. Then I'm not going to help you move. But if you are moving, can I ask you some questions?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to move to? When do you want to be there? I mean, these are just basic fundamentals of what I believe sales is. And then, but to be the best guide, you have to ask questions. You got to know what the problem is. What am I solving?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So in my opinion, sales, if you take that approach to sales, you'll be okay.
great. Absolutely. And really just with reconsidering and putting yourself in your customer's shoes, putting
Sure.
yourself in understanding. I always say too that I believe real estate agents should probably buy or sell a home every few years, because the empathy that they will gain, we talked about the guide has to
Mm-hmm.
have the empathy and authority. Well, the empathy that you gain when you go through the
Oh,
process is night and day. And when you can communicate that, when you've gone through it, you communicate the I understand statement. I
right,
understand how difficult moving is.
right,
I understand how scary 7% interest rates are. I'm really glad that you shared that. And sales really, I think ultimately sales, the thing with selling real estate is we're not selling a pair of cool shoes that
right,
are 100, $200, shoes that I'm going to wear day in, day out. We're selling a asset worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the sales cycle is long.
right,
And why I always talk about, content marketing as a way to leveraging content marketing as a lead generation strategy is because when you've got a long sales cycle, how do you can't just show up when somebody has a move they've got to make.
right,
Number one, because they'll have forgotten you. And number two, it's not very helpful, right? And so
right,
content marketing, which is what I ultimately help real estate agents do, is, I help them create content so that that content helps them stay top of mind in a way that isn't salesy, that
right,
isn't, ooh, who do you know that wants to buy or sell? Or, hey, here's whatever. It's really looking at your customer base and going, what are the, number one, it's knowing your customer base, because as I meet
right.
with
Imagine
hundreds,
that.
yeah. Well, as I meet with hundreds of real estate agents, it is so phenomenal to me. I love asking them, so who's your ideal client? And for the hundreds and hundreds I've ever worked with, no one ever has the exact same answer.
No.
And,
Well, they don't
but
know. They don't know.
no, you have to know who your ideal client is. And look, they're not going to be exactly the same, but they're going to have a commonality. For instance, you've got real estate agents, who your ideal real estate agent is, who
Right,
you want to work with.
right,
It's not that you can't cast this big net. It's just when you know who your real estate agents are, then you know the problems they're facing, and you know the kind of content that they're going to find valuable, so that you stay top of mind when they need a loan officer,
right,
not just the next time somebody, because again, they'll forget you. And you also don't want to be annoying, right? You don't want to just be that loan officer that's like, we all know them. Hey, we'd love to earn your business.
right.
Well, that's great, but what can you do for me? And real estate agents know this. Home buyers and sellers have so many real estate agents to pick from.
Oh, yeah.
They want to be the one that stays top of mind. And yet they know they experience it with their loan officers. How many loan officers are trying to get their business who rarely ever send them a lead, who rarely ever check in, who nothing, right? And so they take their business somewhere else. And then that loan officer is surprised when they're like, oh, you don't use me anymore. Well, when's the last time you delivered any value to my business?
Right. All they
So,
want, yeah. The main approach that I see, and I would say it's all the services that service the real estate community, because the real estate agent's the hub, right? You have, lending, title, inspecting, warranties, you know, but to me, it's all about relationships. My approach because I make phone calls to real estate agents, right?
Mhm.
I call them and my whole pitch is, look, I want to get to know you. I'm not going to ask you for a deal right now. It's like, you know, if we're going to get married, let's date first. Let's go on a date, and I call that a coffee Zoom.
Yeah.
Let's just jump on a coffee Zoom. And they go, what's a coffee Zoom? Well, I'll email you a gift card. You buy beverage of your choice, and we'll just jump on a Zoom call. And let's develop a relationship. I want to know about you. I'm not interested in, do you have a lead for me today? I want to talk to you. I want to hang out with you because I may not want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I want to know, what are your values, and not your value proposition. What are your values?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we a match? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not for every agent.
No.
I'm just not, and you're not either. I mean, you have to mesh.
You do. And you have to, you do a great job of continually adding value by way of CE classes or
Right,
additional trainings, right? You're not just always in the agent's face saying, hey, where's the new deal? And so
right.
that's where I really believe content marketing, why, people also really, I'm glad you said that real estate is about relationships, right? Because a lot of times I'll talk to agents that I'm doing marketing for, and they want quick results, right? They want like, well, we've been creating these really great email campaigns. I want results in a month, and it's like content is a long-term
Yeah,
play for staying top of mind.
what they're asking for is lead generation, not branding.
Exactly. And so I love, and you and I have had this discussion. Exactly. This is branding. And you've said this before. It's why we're having this conversation.
Right,
That we've got to brand our database, right? That
right,
those are people, and it's very strategic. Branding is very strategic when you have a very clear marketing message about the problem you solve, about the value differentiator, and just
and your target.
and marketing and sales are they're multifaceted. There
Right,
isn't just one thing. A lot of people want to grow. I hear a lot of influencers tell real estate agents, oh yeah, the next big thing is head over here, head over there, now
oh
you
yeah,
need this. We want to do all the things, right? But the challenge becomes is we can't do all the things. We don't have
right,
the money to do all the things, or the
right.
time or energy. And so when we can get strategic with a real strategic marketing plan, then we know the kind of content that's going to hit home and
Right.
really keep us top of mind. Ultimately, that's all we want to do is stay top of mind. And I promise when that home buyer or home seller has a problem, a need, they're going to remember you and they're going to refer you,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I'm preaching to the choir.
That's what branding is about. you know.
Exactly.
So
And this was, I hope that I was able to share sort of how story, because I think the misconception is when we think about, telling a story or branding with story, we think about telling our story.
right,
And in fact, it's no, we want to follow the framework that story follows so that
right,
we invite our customers into the story that our
right.
brand is telling.
Yeah,
So
the hero of the story has a problem. There's a guide to get them there, and the hero solves the problem.
yeah, because
You
of
know.
the plan the guide gave them.
Right. So, man, this is good stuff, Allie. So, um, let me think. I mean, I was just, we've been going a while, so let's, um, so if an agent wants to take their brand to the next level, what should they do? I mean, obviously call you, right? How, describe a client for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you to those that are listening. I have a free resource if they'd like to kind of download it for free. It's at rightbrandmarketing.com. I am the founder of Right Brand Marketing, which is a company that focuses on copywriting. Copywriting is, again, it's just using persuasive words to help you sell more homes. So really the first step in the process is to schedule a discovery call. So if you head over to rightbrandmarketing.com, click to schedule a discovery call, there's There's no cost. And really what we go through is we just kind of take a deep dive into, hey, what's working with your marketing right now? What's not working? Is your message clear? Do you know who your ideal client is? It's just really 30 minutes. And from there, we're able to better assess and create a marketing plan and see what kind of content pieces you're missing so that we can plug them in and get you in a really healthy place. So it's a lot of email marketing, it's social media content, it's newsletters, it's print content as well. So, but it starts with a discovery call.
And that's right as in writing, WRITE, not right in RIGHT.
Correct.
Right.
I'm a writer, so
right.
right.
Right brand. What is it? Rightbrandmarketing.com, right?
Perfect. Yep. And there's a button right at the top that says schedule a discovery call, and I'd love to connect with you.
Perfect. So I think that'll be one of my first things I do. I mean, seriously, I do want to catch up with you and say, help me. I mean, I think I have the concept. I just never put it together in a full format, and nor do I have the time to do it.
Exactly.
I mean,
You've got more, as you have shared with me before, you've got a higher revenue producing activities to take care of.
Sure. That's correct. I have, right. And for me, it's preventing or presenting content and creating content for agents. I mean, that's my value proposition is, that I want to bring value to agents. So, hey, if you ever, if you need anything, if you're an agent and you want to, your loan officer is not really, stellar, call me. Let's talk. Let's do a coffee Zoom. Let's see if we're a good fit. You never know.
Love it.
Right? You never know. Okay.
Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate being on the show.
Well, thank you. And it was great having you. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thanks.